Hey, good morning. Welcome to our Sunday service. My name is Jack Lohr. I've been a part of the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood for just over a year. My wife Janice and I became members last fall. I am really grateful to the Reverend Sarah Lindsay for the invitation to lead this service and share something of my story and share something of my family as well, and hopefully speak to our condition on this July 5th weekend. Yes, sorry about that. To share something of this celebration of the July 5th weekend. I want to be especially grateful today to say thank you for the creativity of Ron Levy, Kristen Plumley, Carol Wolf, who created that amazing slideshow for us, and my special friends Bruno Razafindra-Kutu and John Biswas, and our son Michael Lohr, who will be appearing in one of our recorded music pieces. I'm also blessed by the live presence of our Director of Religious Education, Jeannie Nemetz, our tech expert, Benahir Crespo, and members of my family whom you have already begun to become acquainted with. I was impressed by the UUA General Assembly worship last Sunday, which called on us to begin our service by remembering and honoring the first people of our lands. In this virtual gathering, we are wide scattered, but our home base in Ridgewood is on the original land of the Lenape people, some of whose descendants live today in Western Ontario. So let's take just a moment to connect and honor the land and her Indigenous people. Since 1896, the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood has been a community of welcome, whatever your age, gender expression, sexual orientation, education, economic status, history, or theology. We welcome the fullness of who you are. With us, you are free to be yourself. Ours is a non-creedal faith that shares a deep belief in our interdependence and in the power of love, but does not impose any particular dogma with regards to the divine or the meaning of human living. Each of us in our congregation and in our broader Unitarian Universalist faith relates differently to the transcendent, to the mystery. Each of us shares, however, in our curiosity, our depth of reflection, and our attention to living our lives thoughtfully, meaningfully, and in a way that furthers justice and liberation and freedom for all people. If you're interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism or about the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood, please visit our website at uuridgewood.org and email us at 113cottage@gmail.com. If you're not getting a daily email from us with information of that day's Zoom rooms or the weekly Wednesday e-blast, please contact the office so we can get you set up. Email is our primary mode of communication these days, and we don't want you to miss out. We want to take note of the arrest yesterday of a young woman in the group Ridgewood for Black Liberation. Among their demands are four related to education in Ridgewood. One, that the village's Eurocentric curriculum be dismantled. Two, that there be mandatory anti-racist trainings for students and teachers. Three, that there be more Black teachers, staff, and leadership. And four, that there be a Ridgewood Public Schools resource office to support students of color. We can debate tactics, both of the demonstrators and the police, but listening to the concerns of young people will be a way forward. May their efforts truly bring about change. So thank you for joining us this morning. Now my daughter-in-law, Lydia Tembo, a candidate for ministry in the Presbyterian Church USA, is going to lead us in the chalice lighting.
The kindled chalice is a primary symbol of Unitarian Universalist faith tradition. Given our commitment to freedom of thought and belief, it won't surprise you to hear that UUs have many different interpretations of the flaming chalice. Hans Deutsch, the Austrian artist who first used the chalice and flame as a Unitarian symbol in his work with the Unitarian Service Committee during World War II, saw the image as a sign of sacrifice and love. Today, you'll see the chalice connected with the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. On this Independence weekend, feel free to let it mean for you whatever it means. If you have a chalice at home, we encourage you to light it as we light ours. And now, join us in the words that will be up on your screen. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the energy of action as we gather together in the circle of community.
I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May all who hear it awaken from forgetfulness and transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow. Listen, listen. This wonderful sound calls me back to my true self. Hearing the bell, I am able to let go of all my afflictions. My heart is calm, my sorrows ended. I'm no longer bound to anything. I learn to listen to my suffering and the suffering of others. When understanding is born in me, compassion is also born. Listen and breathe. The song Simple Gifts is a song that means a great deal to me. You've already heard it twice as we gathered. When Janice, my wife, and I were married 51 years ago this June, we sang that song as a duet to express something of our sense of what it means to be a couple, what it means to come down where we ought to be, to live simply and humbly. So I would invite you to join me and Kristen Plumley in singing hymn number 16, Simple Gifts. The words will appear on your screen.
Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
Again, good morning. Some of you know that I am a retired Presbyterian minister. So let's address that in the first inning of this game. Can a Presbyterian be a Unitarian Universalist? Well, I am one, so QED. Every Sunday, we say whatever your age, gender expression, sexual orientation, education, economic status, history, or theology, we welcome you. We are united in an ample spirit that has room even for Presbyterians, as long as we don't try to impose our views on others. Even so, you may be worrying that I'm going to preach or invoke words or topics that violate this agreement of respect. Just remember our third principle: acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. We're not here to tell others what to believe. We're here to encourage each other towards spiritual growth on our own path. Today, I'll be sharing some of the story of how my journey led me to the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood. At the heart of it are three people: my wife, Janice, who brought me here the first Sunday after I retired; the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, who stretched my soul in a 21-day retreat back in 1998; and the Reverend Sarah Lindsay, who harmonizes intellect, spirit, and a commitment to justice. Let me acknowledge at this point that much of what I'll say today is inspired and shaped by the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh. His approach to mindfulness is grounded in an awareness of the breath. You may like to try for the rest of this hour to notice when you are breathing in and when you are breathing out. It's an effort, and you can keep coming back to it. So in this time of meditation, I invite you to focus either on the words that I'm going to speak or on your breath. If you like, your eyes may be open or closed, whichever works better for you. I'll be inviting you to focus on a word, if that's your choice, or to listen to all the words that I'll be speaking. We begin with an image of the chalice in Anderson Room. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. In, out. My breath gives life to my body, and as I focus on the breath, my mind becomes calm. Breathing in, I let go of striving. Breathing out, I release all expectations. Breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel fresh. Flower, fresh. Each of us is a flower in the garden of all phenomena. We only need to look at the beauty of children to see that human beings are flowers. Two round eyes are flowers. The clear complexion of the face with its gentle forehead is a flower. The two hands are a flower. When we worry, our foreheads become wrinkled. When we cry and pass so many sleepless nights, our eyes are clouded. The in-breath brings the flower in us back to life. The out-breath helps us to be aware that we have the capacity to be fresh as a flower. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel solid. Mountain, solid. The solid mountain at our core helps us to stand firmly when we are upset by vehement feelings. Whenever we feel despair, anxiety, fear, or anger, we are carried right into the heart of a whirlwind. We are like a tree standing in the gale. If we look up, we shall see our branches bending as if they are about to break and be carried away by the storm. But if we look down, we shall know that the roots of the tree are held firmly in the earth, and we shall feel more stable and at rest. Body and mind are like that. When there is a hurricane of emotions in us, if we know how to withdraw from the storm, that is, if we know how to withdraw from the turmoil of the brain, we shall be solid as a mountain. We shall not be swept away. Breathing in, I see myself as still water. Breathing out, I reflect things as they are. Water, reflecting. The image of a still lake quiets the soul as we breathe. When our mind is not calm, our perceptions are clouded. What we see, hear, and think does not reflect the truth of things, just as when the surface of a lake is troubled by waves, it cannot clearly reflect the moon or clouds above. Our sorrows, pains, and anger arise from our misperceptions. We can practice making the mind as still as the surface of a still lake. The breathing is what does that work. Breathing in, I see myself as space. Breathing out, I feel free. Space, free. If we have too many preoccupations and cares, we will not have clarity and peace and joy. In this moment, we create space for ourselves, space in our hearts and space around us. We let go of the anxieties and projects that burden us. We deal with sorrows and anger in the same way. We let go of the things we carry needlessly. This sort of baggage only makes life heavy. Even if we imagine we cannot be happy without it, without a position, fame, business, and people to run around after us. But if we look again, we shall see that this baggage is often nothing but an obstacle to our happiness. If we can just put it down, we shall have happiness. The enlightened one is the cool moon crossing the sky of utter emptiness. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. In, out. We return to the present moment, and we know it is a wonderful moment. May we see our connection to life in this space, this time, this body, and may we live and love to the full. So may it be. Now our president, Dawn Walter, will share with us some words about sharing.
Good. Can you hear me now? I'm Dawn Walter, your president of the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Society. Just getting a head start on my Sunday dinner here. Each week, we review the many ways that you can financially support USR. And these instructions will appear in a moment. The Unitarian Society of Ridgewood congregation is here solely because of the support of members and friends present and gone. Our shared energy and shared wealth are what make USR possible. Perhaps you have seen the ad for a meditation app that invites you to do nothing for 30 seconds. Learning to do nothing is part of the message of today's service, but not right now. Oh, I think it's done. Here, bud. Oh, it's perfect. Perfect. We are about to have a musical offertory that will last over 4 minutes. Plenty of time to enjoy the music and make your plate donation. This is not a time to do nothing. Some of you may be strapped for cash, and others may be in as strong a position as you've ever been. If you need help, please reach out by sending a private message to one of our leaders. And if you can, reach out in support by using one of the ways shown. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
So for our first reading today, we're going to hear from former President Barack Obama speaking in a Zoom meeting with My Brother's Keeper Alliance, a part of the Obama Foundation, from a meeting entitled Reimagining Policing in the Wake of Continued Police Violence.
Historically, so much of the progress that we've made in our society has been because of young people. Dr. King was a young man when he got involved. Cesar Chavez was a young man. Malcolm X was a young man. The leaders of the feminist movement were young people. Leaders of union movements were young people. The leaders of the environmental movement in this country and the movement to make sure that the LGBT community finally had a voice and was represented were young people. And so when sometimes I feel despair, I just see what's happening with young people all across the country and the talent and the voice and the sophistication that they're displaying. And it makes me feel optimistic. It makes me feel as if, you know, this country is going to get better. Keep working and stay hopeful. As I said, this is a moment, and we've had moments like this before, where people are paying attention. And that doesn't mean that everything will get solved. And so don't get disheartened, because there's a marathon, not a sprint. But the fact that people are paying attention provides an opportunity to educate, activate, mobilize, and act. And I hope that we are able to seize this moment, and I hope all the young people who've been inspired and engaged and involved, they keep at it, because that's what ultimately is going to create the kind of country we want. And for those who have been talking about protests, just remember, this country was founded on protest. It is called the American Revolution. And every step of progress in this country, every expansion of freedom, every expression of our deepest ideals has been won through efforts that made the status quo uncomfortable. And we should all be thankful for folks who are willing in a peaceful, disciplined way to be out there making a difference.
Oh, need to take a big breath after that. My name is Jean Nemitz, and I'm the Director of Religious Education. And our second reading today is from a Dharma talk given by Thich Nhat Hanh on December 24th, 1997 in Plum Village, France. Before reading this, please understand Thich Nhat Hanh is not telling us to leave USR and return to our religion of origin if we didn't start out as UUs. We are being encouraged by him to find our roots and nourish them. Just listen. He says, years of sharing the Dharma in the West have brought opportunities for me to meet Europeans and Americans who have suffered so much they wanted to have nothing to do with their society, their church, their family, and their culture. They want to become a Buddhist because they have hated everything related to their roots. I know that in order to help these people, we have to be very patient. My tendency is to tell them, a person without roots cannot be a happy person. You have to go back to your roots. You have to go back to your family. You have to go back to your culture. You have to go back to your church. And if I tell them so that they will get angry with me, they will shout at me, because that is exactly what they don't want to do. At the same time, I know that a tree without roots cannot survive. A person without roots cannot survive either. So I have to be very patient. I say, welcome, practice sitting meditation. You have the right to love the Buddha, to love the Vietnamese culture. Slowly, slowly they recover a little bit of their confidence, their faith, and their capacity to accept love. When the time is right, I tell them, go back to your own culture, go back to your own family, go back to your own church. They need you. Do that for not only your own generation, but for the future generations as well.
So before 1998, I used to be the person as a runner who would see a car passing too close to me and pound it on the side. I was the driver in a traffic jam on the West Side Highway who would straddle the breakdown lane to prevent others from cheating and sneaking around the rest of us. I was the sort of parent who, well, my kids back there, you'd have to ask, sorry about that, guys. You'd have to ask them about the ways that I expressed my anger. But in May of 1998, I rode my Honda 250 Nighthawk from New Jersey up to Vermont for a 21-day retreat at St. Michael's College with Vietnamese Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. The trip was like an IMAX movie. I was projected through the scenery with my helmet providing a 180-degree panorama and nothing intervening. I felt immersed in metaphor. Every cloud, every bird, each new vista spoke of the wonder and preciousness of life. So how did a Presbyterian minister, midway on life's journey, end up bound for a 3-week immersion in Zen Buddhism? No doubt it was predestination. As a teen, I read Alan Watts and twisted my legs into the pretzel posture of the lotus. My Quaker roots and practice in college had grounded me in expectant silence and the mystical joy that is sometimes the fruit of quiet meditation. I read and quoted Thich Nhat Hanh in my sermons. I'd been practicing yoga for 5 years and felt ready to deepen the stillness. At the same time, I could see my 53rd birthday looming on the horizon, along with the dreaded Y2K. My father died of stomach cancer at age 53, my grandfather of leukemia at age 53. They say things happen in threes. I was about to turn 53, and I was on a quest to find coping skills for whatever the year 2000 might bring. Arriving at St. Michael's College brought me back to earth. There was a long line to get the room keys, many anxious people trying to parse the program. When do we eat? Where's the official beginning? Can I park my motorcycle somewhere to keep it dry if it rains? At least one person had questions like these. I resisted the little sign that greeted me in the dorm, "Let us maintain noble silence." I was glad when my roommate talked normally and we could introduce ourselves. My first silent meal was difficult. Chewing each bite mindfully 30 times or more was hard because my tongue is trained to thrust back and force a swallow after just 4 chews. I almost gagged several times. I was also embarrassed to look deeply into the eyes of my table mates, sneaking furtive glances until one old practitioner met my gaze and smiled. Over time, I would find great joy in connecting with the processes of nature and the people who had made each meal possible, from the workers who planted and harvested the ingredients to the cooks who prepared it. At times, the eating became almost orgasmic. 5 days into the retreat, though, I was still fighting the discipline of sitting meditation. I couldn't settle down. I resisted the advice to find whatever posture made me comfortable, was trying to sit cross-legged on the floor like the seasoned meditators. Then I tried cushions and benches and nothing seemed to work. When I sat in the bleachers, my shoulders tightened up. I was dealing not with a physical problem, but my own stubbornness. To be honest, I've always had a deep ambivalence about authority. I wanted, as a child, to be close to my father, but he was harsh and foreboding. The struggle planted early seeds of passive aggression. In the meditation, I began to see how my need to follow or break the rules was at the heart of my struggle, and the major reason for the suffering that I inflict on myself and others, especially, it seems, those closest to me. Insights like these are hard to swallow. We don't like to look inside. In the words of the activist advice, we can't just sit there, we have to do something. We have to do anything to get away from that internal reflection. But today I'm here to say, stop. USR, these days are calling to us. Don't just do something, sit there. I don't claim originality, but this anti-activist advice is particularly appropriate to us here at USR in these unexampled days. Now you may be thinking this is a council of passivity. Am I suggesting we give up on the struggles for rights and acceptance for all sentient beings? No. Am I surrendering to the orange, nattering nabob of negativity on Twitter? Of course not. USR has a great tradition of activism, and we absolutely must do something, indeed do many things to realize our values. We have to do even more, but we have to ground our action in discernment. It takes observation, understanding, intuition, and judgment to be effective in action. And these fruits grow from seeds that are planted and watered in silence. So don't just do something. Sit there. Sit there until you are able to move out with wisdom. We don't have to seek spiritual meaning in other cultures or religions. We do need to see the connections between being you, and whatever traditions we may have grown up in. I am convinced that Unitarian Universalism embodies the best and most expansive expression of the religious visions to be found in America. For us to thrive here, we must sink our roots deep. We need to bloom where we are planted. To do that, we must not just do something, we need also to sit here. Last month, I attended a couple of circle meetings for our new structures here at USR. I'm excited about how this new approach to our work invites everyone to get involved. But I observed that despite our facilitators' advice not to get deep into the weeds, not to start solving all the problems we see, that's just what we did. Sometimes I think UUs are so focused on action, we're better at the what than the why. Our Monday evening conversations on race with Pastor Mac Brandon operate on a different plan. They may seem like a lot of talk and little action, but it's out of such inaction that our next steps in dealing with white supremacy will issue forth. As a newcomer to USR, I'm discovering we are an independent, activist congregation. Each of us cares deeply and works diligently on what we could call progressive issues. Like all UUs, our independence is foremost. Nobody tells us what to think or do. But that can also mean we are unfocused. If you asked people outside USR, what would they say about us? If they even knew that there is a progressive congregation on Cottage Place, would they be able to say what we stand for? We work on everything as individuals, but as a society, would you agree with me that we're trying to fill 100 cups at 100 feet with the nozzle set on spray? These are days of enforced inaction. They remind us that we are human beings, not human doings. Although the world, that is Facebook, Twitter, etc., tells us to react, to do something, reality is not that clear. To act with awareness of context and intersectionality requires reflection. Successful action derives from sitting still. And to be clear, social media are neither here nor there. Being on Facebook is not the same as sitting still. It's not meditation. But neither is posting to Facebook or signing petitions a form of real action. If our celebration of Independence Weekend still has meaning for us, we need to look inside and ask, what are you and I still yearning to be freed from and freed for? How will we use this time, and will it make a difference when we are free to move out into a post-COVID-19 world? As I sat there in the bleachers in 1998 at St. Michael's College on my 21-day retreat, I received an insight in answer to everything. Looking back, it seems simple, but it felt profound. There is no right way. The way is love. As I felt the release of my struggle, tears began to fall. There was so much that I needed to let go of. I still grieved my father's death almost 25 years on. I was feeling rejected and abandoned by his absence. I was angry with my family that there was no plan for a memorial service for my grandmother who had died 5 months earlier. I felt restricted and restrained by the needs of my family and my church, even though they had both supported my taking time away. Finally, the gentleness and compassion of the universe had broken through to me. I knew that I would continue to struggle and work on the issues of shame and pride that are my core issues, but I would do so from the inside rather than as a resistant outsider. A week later, I received the Buddhist equivalent of baptism. Thich Nhat Hanh sprinkled me with water from a willow branch as I stood face to face with him. With this ritual based in the teaching of the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, you are transformed into a child born into the heart of a lotus. As the Lotus Sutra explains, with only one drop of the water of compassion from the branch of the willow, spring returns to the great earth. At the end of the retreat, I took the 3 refuges and received the 5 mindfulness trainings. I joined many Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, and atheist practitioners in claiming the Buddhist practice of mindfulness without leaving my roots. Zen meditation became a regular part of the community at the church in Franklin Lakes and continues virtually to this day. For the last couple of decades of my ministry, I considered myself a Presbyterian. You can ask my family, I'm still sometimes passive-aggressive, but maybe not so much. And I'm much more ready to let go of my compulsive need to be right. Today, in transitioning to Unitarian Universalism, I feel that I'm completing a process that began in my childhood. It was focused in the lens of the 21-day retreat and refined as I retired and discovered USR. I have a lot to learn and maybe a few things to teach. I look forward to leading services again on August 16th. I plan to speak on godless ethics, sharing my own brand of atheism and reflecting with you on the story of the sufferings of Job. The theme for the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly was rooted, inspired, and ready. 1, 2, 3, rooted, inspired, and ready. We are called to be rooted, in touch with our theological roots. Secondly, engaged in transforming our faith. And third, fired up to take action in the wider world. As we continue our journey with COVID-19 and gather together at a distance, are we cultivating our roots and seeking inspiration? If we continue to use it wisely, this time of sitting will prepare us for a different way of being when we return to action. Until then, don't just do something. Sit there with patience and courage and hope. So may it be. So given what time it was and my intention to complete this service by 11 o'clock, I'm going to ask that we skip our closing hymn, something that might not hurt anyone anyway. Let me ask you to join me in the extinguishing of the chalice. My daughter-in-law, Lydia Tembo, will be leading us in this sharing. So if you have your chalice, get it ready, and we will bring the service to a close with the extinguishing.
Please join me in the words of extinguishing the chalice. They'll be on your screen. We extinguish this flame, but may the light of truth, the warmth of life, and the energy burn bright in our hearts until we are together again.
Now may all souls that have joined us in this time feel blessing, feel peace, feel love. As we leave this space, may we remember to sit as well as to act, to seek deep love and insight, as well as to express those feelings. May all beings who've joined us across lands and seas now take their leave and continue to live in unconditional love. So may it be.